Yo, this is Soldrum86 bringing you another video. So I wanted to talk about WWE 2K and this whole grind and what I've heard certain content creators say that it really does bother me. It's I don't know. Sometimes it's kind of telling about the state of WWE 2K. And on the other side of it, it just doesn't make much sense to me. Now, I've been hearing a lot of people say that, it's going to give them a reason to play the game or it's going to give them something to play for when they do play the game. They say, oh, I don't just want to turn on the game to play it because God forbid you just turn on a video game to play it because the video game is fun. Silly me. I always thought that was the point. You have games that are different for a reason, right? Let me explain. You have RPGs, right? Where every time you play, you're playing to level up a character, unlock a magical power, unlock weapons, unlock new abilities for your character so that when you fight tougher boss battles, you're more prepared for those boss battles. And then you do that on rinse and repeat until you finally beat the game. And sometimes they just end. There is no continuing to keep going. Sometimes they just end, right? You have your games like Gears of War, Warhammer. You pick a character and it's just a shoot 'em up game. You're doing all of these cool little moves and finishing moves. And, you are coming into these boss battles sometimes and you're just going through the game, though. Just you're progressing through the story. So every time you play the game, you're progressing through the story. You're not necessarily unlocking new weapons and characteristics. Sometimes you are, but there are certain games where that's just it. Like, God of War, you are upgrading your character. Kratos is getting, some new abilities, new weapons and stuff like that. So, yeah, you'll have that aspect of it. For the most part, games will have a beginning, middle, and end, and you're just trying to reach to that end point. But then you also have games where, look, and I know we're in a day and age where we don't have many of them anymore, but you do have the whole arcade thing, right? So arcade games back in the day, when you played, you didn't play for a grind. You played because they were fun to just pick up and play. There was nothing to grind in NBA Jam. You just picked up that game and you tried to beat the computer every single time that you played, or you tried to beat your friend. Couch co-op, right? There was no online. So it was couch co-op or you guys are going to the arcade going head to head. And that was it. And that was fun. And that was all you needed, right? So you have a game like WWE 2K, which is very much the same thing as Madden and NBA 2K. What do I mean by that? Well, with Madden, NBA 2K, FIFA, all of these games have modes where they continue to keep going and going and going. You really never beat the game because you can keep going. When you're playing like franchise mode, you're going through multiple seasons, trading, drafting, reworking, firing coaches, hiring coaches, the whole nine. So you're trying to make your team get to that main stage, right? Seeing how far you can get. Can you set a goal for yourself to make the playoffs? Can you make the Super Bowl? Can you win the Super Bowl? Right. And then whatever happens, you continue. Credits don't roll. You just continue. OK, but you're not really grinding for anything. You might have to grind if you're playing Madden Ultimate Team or My Team in NBA 2K or whatever. But when you're playing these modes where people just, historically have been able to just kind of let themselves relax and play the game, there is no grind in franchise mode. There is no grind in my eras, right? You're just trying to get your team is good enough to, and when you're good at the game, you're most likely doing this fairly easy. Might be a little bit of a challenge depending on what team you choose as your franchise team, but you're continuing to play. And WWE 2K has the same format, right? WWE 2K has My GM, where you plan out your shows. You have a budget. You're right. You have to, do stuff with the wrestlers' contracts and, venues, and you can make your venue bigger. You start at smaller venues and all of this other stuff. You do all of this background stuff. It's not really a grind. You know what I mean? Because you're not grinding to unlock all of these different things. Like the mode is just there. Right. You just progress. You progress through. You try to. I mean, I've never really played the new My GM, so I really don't have much to say on that. But in terms of universe mode just continues and continues and continues. If you complete a year in universe mode, the game doesn't end for you. The credits don't roll. You just continue to go. There's no grind. You're just having fun building shows, building rivalries that you either want to see in real life that they have not done, or you're recreating yourself, right? Some people take the next step and they create a whole new roster of just nothing but it might be their creations, very unique creations that have nothing to do with the real life product, no matter what era. You know what I mean? Making their own arenas, making their own wrestling organizations. And, you're in your, what they call the sandbox, where you're able to do all this stuff and people play this throughout the year. But yet you're still hearing these people say, oh, I need a reason to play the game. Every time I play the game, I want to be playing for something. Since when has it ever been okay for us to want to play for something that we've paid for? And I'm talking about DLC. I'm not even talking about the game. I'm talking about the added stuff, the extra stuff. You're getting these ringside passes, paying for these ringside passes, but you don't even get the content immediately. And if you do want the content immediately, you have to pay again to get the content immediately. That is crazy to me. That is so crazy to me. And the fact that people are trying to really, play some mental gymnastics and make it seem like this is okay or it's not that bad. That is just like crazy, man. I just don't understand that logic. And then I look at the side of like, okay, you need a reason to play 2K, right? You get bored. I've seen these content creators say this, and I think a lot of the times they don't really pay attention to what they're saying, because on one hand, they'll say that they're so excited, they love this game, blah, 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 blah. But then you'll hear, I get bored of this mode. I get bored really quick and I stop playing this and I stop playing that. So is it more about 2K just not being enough? Is it more about WWE 2K might just not be that very good of a game? Because I don't believe that it is. You might be somebody that does believe that WWE 2K is enough and that it's good, whatever. I personally don't. I think it's a franchise that refuses to listen to fans. I think it is a franchise that historically has half-assed every mode, every feature, every gameplay mechanic that they have ever put in the game has always been half-assed. Every time you think that something is going to be great, it's always going to be less than. Right? It's always going to be less than, and you can always pretty much predict that it will be. It's hard to have hope for something when historically you see that it will fail or it won't be as good. So many people were excited about promos, and then when they added in promos, look at what they did. You're bringing something back for the first time in years, and instead of going all out and making it something that was memorable, you've made everybody say, well, when you see a couple of promos, you're then tired of it. After you see the promo cutscenes, then you get sick of it. I mean, they were so quick. They weren't realistic to what real promos are in real WWE. I mean, it just was pathetic. If I'm being honest, it was pathetic. And that's sadly what I think of WWE 2K a lot when they add in new features. I'm not saying that there's nothing that you can't get excited for at all with this game coming out this year. There's some good things that they've added. There's some really cool features, but for every cool thing that they added, it's like, but when you look at the price of the game, when you look at the ringside pass situation, it kind of takes away all of that. It puts a damper on everything that they did that was good this year. There is now a damper that was put on it through all of the just greedy tactics. All of the greedy tactics just take all of it away. Takes all of it away. But I've never known for a situation in my gaming life, right? And since I've been gaming, I've never thought of like, man, yeah, I hope they put something in there where, it cost us money and then instead of us getting it, we have to, grind for it. That just doesn't make any sense. I mean, WWE 2K, they already have their modes where you unlock things and obtain things through completing them, which is My Rise and the Showcase mode. But that wasn't enough for them. And oddly enough, it wasn't enough for some of these content creators. They welcome it, right? It's not enough to play through Showcase and unlock the wrestlers and arenas there that you have to play Showcase to unlock. There is no buying those wrestlers. There is no buying those arenas. That is, you have to complete showcase to get those arenas and those superstars. That wasn't enough for these content creators. It wasn't enough for playing through My Rise to unlock the stuff that you have to unlock through playing My Rise. No supercharge or whatever unlocked those things. You had to play through those game modes. So if you have to play through those game modes to unlock those things, which that isn't a bad thing, but that's not enough to play through those game modes. You have to be okay with the ringside pass to unlock all this other stuff. Wrestlers that you would be able to get, even though you did have to pay money, but wrestlers that you would get from the start with the supercharger or accelerator pack, you now have to grind for. That, I don't know. I don't think people realize that it's going to change the way that you play the game. And if you never had to grind for much in WWE 2K, but now they're making you grind for so much, not to mention they're making you grind for things that were in the game at one point before, whether that be a superstar's look, a specific superstar, or a wrestler that was, an arena that was in the ring at one point in the franchise, because you know that that's what this game is going to be full of. It's going to be full of unlocking things through a grind or another paywall. If you want to skip, the thing and get things immediately, it's not going to be filled with nothing but brand new content, which again is what I brought up in the last video. This is why this does not work for a wrestling franchise. The Game Pass or the ringside pass thing just does not work for a wrestling title. You can see that they have struggled over the years with WWE 2K on what to monetize, because they've been doing this for a long time, where we'll lose a wrestler 1 year or a couple years, they'll bring that wrestler back. And even if that wrestler may have even been default roster, you'll have to buy them, even though at one point in time they were in the game. We had to buy Rikishi after Rikishi was in a 2K before. That doesn't make any sense. We've had to buy Psycho Sid, even though Psycho Sid was in the game before. Yes, I get that it's Sid Justice. But here's the other thing too about 2K. Why, when you bring a wrestler in, just give us one of their gimmicks? How about we get Sid Justice and Psycho Sid? Why not? Why not? Why not every year that Mankind is in the game? Why can't we also get Dude Love, Cactus Jack, Corporate, Mankind? How come we can't get all of it? Why are we just doing this? And it's because they have to find ways to monetize the game. So yeah, 1 year you're going to pay for Ravishing Rick Rude. 1 year he's going to be an unlockable. And then 1 year he's just going to be default in the game. Honky Tonk Man, had to pay for him twice. He was a part of the DLC in WWE 2K15, the Ultimate Warrior Showcase. He was unlockable through that. Out of the game since then, and then he finally made his return. I believe it was 2K24 when Honky Tonk Man came back? But we had to buy him. He was a part of a DLC. Had to buy Mr. Perfect again, a part of that DLC, the WCW DLC. Even though Mr. Perfect was the WWE version of Mr. Perfect, but I believe he was in that WCW pack in 2K24. But Mr. Perfect was in the game back in 2K18, and I think he was even in there in 2K19. He was in there 2 years in a row as a default roster, like base roster. And then we had to buy him after him being out of the game. Do you see what I'm saying? But people are okay with this. I've never been okay with it. I think it sucks. The fact that they get rid of arenas and then, they get rid of them forever. Sometimes they never bring them back. And now they're finally bringing some back. But guess what? You have to grind for the arenas. It just doesn't make sense, man. It really doesn't. Wrestling games aren't meant to, and this is all like the gaming industry and how greedy it's become. And it's like they have to find ways to monetize something. And you see how difficult it is to monetize it with wrestling. I mean, hell, the only way that they monetize NBA 2K is through my team and my career stuff. But if you notice, everything else that has to deal with like solely the NBA, that stuff they never, you don't have to buy old school teams. You don't have to buy old school arenas and players. They're all there. Sometimes they're taken out due to licensing, but even with NBA 2K, if you're somebody that's a fan of just the NBA, all of that stuff is there for you. The old school teams. Again, players in certain years, teams are missing, but for the most part, they don't try to monetize that and sell you that stuff. They try to sell you everything else, and it works, like with the My Career stuff. But you know what I mean? Like it just for a wrestling game, it doesn't work, man. It really doesn't. This method just doesn't work. I'm curious to see how everything turns out, man, because I will be making another video. I cannot wait to see how things turn out because these same content creators, I want to see what they say once they start seeing how difficult this grind is. Because if we think for a minute that this grind for all of this stuff is going to be as easy as people think, it won't be. Trust me, it won't be. And there is a high possibility that there is an exploit somewhere. 2K will patch it to get rid of that exploit, and it's going to make it to where people are going to feel like they're forced to pay the money and skip through the grind to just get the stuff that they paid for, which they should be getting regardless. You know, I think people forget that, like, when people were playing these wrestling games all these years, they were just picking the game up to play it. For years, when I played season modes in wrestling games, I had no problem replaying these season modes over and over and over again. Road to WrestleMania, never had a problem playing those modes over and over and over again. I would go to regular play now and make my own matches. I never had a problem with doing that. It's a wrestling game. It's a wrestling game. It's just like turning on Mortal Kombat or Street Fighter or Tekken. You don't have to play to unlock anything. Once you got everything in the game, if the game is fun, it's meant for you to just continue to turn on and play it. That's why it's BS when they say player engagement. When they say, oh, we want people playing the game more. 2K, you know people play your game all year round. All year round, people are playing Universe Mode and My GM. Yes, you do have a lot of us that quit because you're not making a good enough game for us. But for everybody else, they're playing the game all year round. You don't need more people playing the game. They're playing the game just fine without having to have that added pressure of grinding. Now they have that added pressure. It's going to make them play the game differently. Just watch. People might think that I'm like, no, I'm going to still play the game the same way. No, you're not, because you're not going to have everything available to you. When you want a wrestler in your, say somebody debuts in WWE in real life, and they're not in base roster yet. Like they're not there. Well, with this ringside pass, they can make them available, and they're going to make it to where, okay, you got to grind for this player. It kind of reminds me of a good example that I can think of is Penta. When Penta was DLC last year, so many people were like, I can't wait till this DLC. I know there's some good ones in community creations, and I know a lot of people did download that one and just kind of wait until the official Penta came out. But there were a lot of people that were like, yes, I want Penta a part of my universe mode. I cannot wait until the DLC comes out with this character. And because you already paid for it through the season pass, or you were picking and choosing and you bought the DLC, because you automatically got him right away, what were you able to do? Plug him right into your universe mode. Now you're not going to be able to do that. So when you play the game, and say if you're somebody who just would turn on the game, you beat, Showcase and My Rise, if you even do My Rise, and you go straight to universe mode. Some people go straight to universe mode, right? And the whole, like, you can play all these different game modes and it can work towards unlocking all of this stuff. Okay. But universe mode is very different. GM mode is very different. You're doing a lot of planning. A lot of the gameplay is set up. Before you play the matches, a lot of gameplay with those modes are set up. So now when these certain wrestlers or certain arenas become available through the ringside pass, you're going to be in a situation where you have to make a choice. Do I want this right now. So do I pay the extra money? Even though I already paid, do I pay the extra money or do I grind? And so even though you can grind through universe mode, how many matches is it going to take to really unlock this stuff? Right? What if you don't want to speed through your universe mode? What if you like to take your time through your weeks and your months? Right? What if you like to take time between shows because you're doing all of this setup? You don't want to have to play and win this match and win this match and win this match and win this match and then notice how you're not getting that much credits. So then you have to stop playing that game mode, get out of that, back out. Then you got to play another game mode. And you got to start playing that and then playing that. And then you start seeing like, man, I'm not really getting enough credits. So then it's like, all right, let me play my faction. And then you probably start getting a little more credits. And you got to play the island. You probably are going to have to realistically play through all of these different match types or all of these different game modes in order to unlock a lot of this stuff. Because again, we don't know. Once they add the whole thing of you can skip this if you want, in my mind, that has to mean that they're going to be a little greedy on the XP that you get after every win. And I do think that certain game modes are going to be more giving of that XP than others. And if it's a game mode that you don't want to play, that you have no interest in, how messed up is that? Again, forcing you, the consumer, the fan, to play the game the way that they want you to play the game instead of you being able to play the game how you have always played the game. That's always been the whole point in playing a video game. If you buy it and it's your money, you should be able to enjoy it the way that you want to enjoy it. I'm so sick of people saying you don't have to buy it. No, nothing. No, nobody's holding a weapon to your head and forcing you to do anything. But then you're forcing somebody else to have a different experience and a lesser experience because they don't want to contribute to those things. That's the part that's not fair. So you can't really tell these people, oh, you don't have to buy it. Yes, but if it's something that they want, they should be able to have that thing. You might be able to say, hey, go to community creations and download these characters and download these things. Very true. But if unlockable call parts are going to be involved in this ringside pass, well, say if that player doesn't have those things and they go to community creations and some of the best creations are utilizing a lot of these things that are that have unlockable parts attached to it, then you can't download it. Right? They are literally making this game to where you don't pay the money, then you're going to have a lesser experience. That's what's unfortunate. I know I started talking about a lot of different things in this video, man, but I really did want to get that off of my chest. And I've mentioned it before. A lot of this stuff that I'm talking about isn't new, but I'm not a fan of being forced to play a game a different way than I've always historically played it. I want to sit and relax and play a game on my terms. I want to play it the way that I want to play it. I don't want to add this added pressure of, well, if I want this character, then I got to grind for this character. Man, I'm an old school fan and they got legends locked behind this stuff. So that would really suck for me. Buying WWE 2K26 would not benefit me at all because they got legends locked behind this stuff, man. Legends that I would normally get after purchasing a supercharger or accelerator pack, not available to me from the start, man, that would piss me off. Because when I play this game, anybody who's been following this channel for a while now, you know that the vast majority of my content that I put up always had to deal with the 80s and the 90s or Attitude Era. And you're going to have all of these characters locked behind that stuff? Nah, man. No. And the fact that the game is 150, 200 for people in Canada, there's no game worth that amount of money. Remember when, and somebody mentioned this too, one of my followers mentioned this in the comment section. Guys, it was maybe a couple videos back. Remember when you used to pay a lot of money for these special editions, but you would get a lot of stuff? They had like sometimes statues, sometimes figures, but it was more than just that. It would be like the statue. It would be a steelbook version of the case. Everything would look all fancy. I remember there was a year WWE 2K. I can't remember which one it was. Help me out Help me remember which one it was, guys. I don't know if it was 2K19, but it came with a piece of the ring canvas from NXT, and it was a match that Finn Balor had. And everybody who pre-ordered that, when you picked it up from GameStop or wherever, you got a fancy like box, it's a big box or whatever, and you got a piece of the ring canvas from that match. You're not even getting stuff like that, and they're charging 150 for this game. Think about that. Charging all of this money, and you're not getting any kind of statue. You're not getting a nice fancy case cover that you can look at and touch. You're not getting any of that. I mean, for $150, they're saying that they're saying that the game costs 150 for what you get in terms of like VC and the ringside passes. That's all. That's what they're saying is worth that. At least before, like I said, broken record, at least you got a bunch of stuff. It's just crazy, man. But let me know what you guys feel in the comment section, man. I'll be back with another video when I find out more information of what's going on with 2K. And before I go, for everybody being shocked about the way that the rollout has been with 2K, the company in general, I'm talking, they do this with NBA 2K too. Like, they've always sucked at getting people ready for the next game. They always wait a really long time because they don't have any competition. So they kind of feel that they can do whatever they want. They do this on purpose, man. But anyways, this is your boy Soul Drum 86, and I'm out. Peace.